so sorry. I am so sorry. I made a mistake. I ruined such a beautiful thing.
18 years together, and just like that, it's over. But what really went down between Tori Spelling and Dean McDermott? Because trust me, this story isn't as clean as it looks on paper. After months of silence, they've officially settled their divorce. But the way it happened? Yeah, it's messy. From surprise filings to deleted posts, secret calls, and even confessions about what really destroyed their marriage. It gets crazy. Tori didn't even tell Dean she was filing. She literally said she had to wait until it was public before she could call him. And when she finally did, he was at work, completely blindsided. But that's not all. The timeline of their breakup doesn't line up with what either of them told the public. Behind the Instagram statements and loving co-parent captions, there's a story of regret, resentment, and recovery that nobody saw coming. So, how did Hollywood's picture-perfect couple fall apart after nearly 2 decades? And why now, after all this time, did they finally call it quits for good? Let's break it down. Because the more you look into this divorce, the more wild it actually gets. And just wait. What comes next will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about Tori and Dean. It all started like something out of a scripted romance. Tori Spelling and Dean McDermott met in 2005 while filming Mind Over Murder, and from the very first day, they were obsessed with each other. The chemistry was instant, the kind people talk about for decades. Both of them were already married at the time, but within weeks, that didn't matter. They couldn't stay away from each other. It was fast, it was intense, and honestly, it was doomed from the start. They tied the knot just a year later in a private ceremony in Fiji. No massive Hollywood wedding, no flashing cameras, just 2 people convinced they'd found forever. But here's where it gets interesting. Friends close to them said it was too fast. Some even claimed it felt like a rebound disguised as a fairy tale. And honestly, looking back, they might have been right. Their relationship moved so fast, it barely had time to breathe. They launched reality shows, made joint TV appearances, and painted the picture of a perfect Hollywood family. 5 kids later, they looked like they had it all. But that picture-perfect life, it was starting to crack. And that's where things begin to get messy. Because behind the cameras and the smiling interviews, there were arguments, insecurities, and struggles that nobody saw coming. But what really caused those cracks to turn into full-blown fractures? It wasn't just fame. It wasn't just pressure. It was something way deeper. And it's about to get a lot darker. At first, everything looked picture-perfect. Tori Spelling, Hollywood royalty, and Dean McDermott, the charming actor who seemed like her forever match. Together, they built a brand. TV shows, red carpets, interviews, even their own reality series. True Tori. But behind that glossy image, the foundation was already starting to shake. Once the cameras stopped rolling, reality hit hard. Raising 5 kids while trying to keep their careers alive became overwhelming. Tori later admitted that the relationship changed completely after they started having children. "I became focused on the kids and kind of left him," she said. And that one sentence says everything. Because while she was drowning in motherhood, Dean was drowning in something else. Temptation, pressure, and eventually, addiction. He's since talked about his struggles with sobriety and how they tore through the family like a storm. But listen to this. Tori didn't just feel neglected, she felt alone. She said she was in this alone with the kids, while trying to keep the public from seeing the chaos behind the scenes. And yet, every time things got bad, they'd find a way to patch it up for the cameras. That's the thing about Hollywood couples. What you see isn't always what's real. But here's the twist. While everyone thought they were making it work, something was already unraveling quietly behind closed doors. And when the truth finally came out, it shocked everyone, because the way their marriage actually ended, it wasn't mutual, it wasn't calm, and it definitely wasn't planned. The next part of this story shows just how fast everything fell apart, and why even Dean didn't see it coming. By the time 2023 rolled around, things between Tori and Dean were hanging by a thread. But no one, not even Dean, expected how that thread would finally snap. It started quietly. On June 17th, 2023, Dean dropped a bombshell Instagram post announcing their separation. It read like a farewell letter. Emotional, regretful, final. But here's the kicker. He deleted it within hours. Yeah, gone. And that's when fans started asking, what's really going on behind the scenes? Turns out, that same day was listed as their official separation date in the court documents, later filed by Tori. Coincidence? Not even close. It was the exact day Dean's deleted post went up. But it gets crazier. Because Tori later revealed that when she filed for divorce months later, she never even told Dean ahead of time. She confessed on her own podcast, saying, "I just got word from my lawyer that it's public. Imagine that. Finding out your 18-year marriage is over from a public notice." Tori admitted she was terrified to call him, saying she doesn't like confrontation. She literally called him while he was working to say, "Hey, it's official." And the internet? It went wild, but that's not all. Their fans had seen red flags for months. Cryptic posts, awkward interviews, and those moments when Tori appeared in public without her wedding ring. Still, nobody thought it would actually end like this, with an uncontested divorce and a silent settlement that left everyone guessing. So, what really pushed it over the edge? What happened between the heartbreak, the deleted posts, and the final signature that made this split permanent? Because while the papers may say uncontested, the story behind them is anything but simple, and the next part shows just how deep this breakup really runs. When Tori finally filed for divorce in March 2024, it wasn't some drawn-out courtroom drama. It was swift, quiet, and surprisingly uncontested. But that's where things start to get suspicious. Because while the public saw a calm, mature split, those close to the couple said the tension was anything but calm behind the scenes. Court documents confirmed she asked for both spousal and child support, which instantly had people wondering, was Dean struggling financially again? Remember, there were already rumors about money problems and overdue bills for years, and Tori had even joked on her podcast about living paycheck to paycheck. But listen to this. Sources close to her claimed she was done being the one holding the family together. She wanted closure, and this time, she wasn't waiting for his approval. Then came the kicker, the divorce settlement itself. Finalized in late October, it was labeled as uncontested, meaning Dean didn't fight it. No messy back and forth, no drawn-out legal battle, just quiet signatures and sealed papers. But that's not all. The details of their agreement were kept private. That's right. Nobody knows the full story of how assets, property, or custody were divided. And in Hollywood, when things go that silent, it usually means there's more happening behind closed doors. Still, both sides kept the public act polished. We'll continue to work together as loving parents, Dean said in his original statement. Sounds nice, right? But those close to the couple said their communication was almost non-existent for months. And while Tori was rebuilding her life, Dean was dealing with the aftermath of years of emotional strain and public scrutiny. But just when fans thought the dust had settled, Tori dropped a few bombshells on her podcast that hinted the story might not be over. And trust me, what she said next made everyone realize this divorce wasn't just about moving on, it was about finally speaking out. After the papers were signed, most people assumed the story was over. But Tori wasn't done talking. On her MisSpelling podcast, she started revealing details that made the entire situation sound way more complicated than anyone realized. And honestly, it gets wild. Tori admitted that for years, she felt like she was living two lives. The picture-perfect mom for the public and the exhausted, overworked wife at home. "I was focused on the kids," she said, "and I kind of left him." But here's where it takes a turn. She wasn't blaming him entirely. She said Dean's struggles with sobriety and mental health took a massive toll on the family, but she still cared about him deeply. She even said she was proud that he's sober now. That's huge. Still, the damage was done. Dean himself later opened up in interviews admitting he hit rock bottom, saying he messed up and lost everything that mattered. But listen to this. He said he didn't even realize how bad things were until after Tori filed. That's when it finally hit him. The marriage wasn't just in trouble, it was gone. Meanwhile, Tori was slowly reinventing herself, using her podcast to control the narrative. It was raw, honest, and, at times, brutally emotional. Fans said it felt like therapy in real time, like she was finally saying everything she'd held back for nearly 2 decades. But that's not all. In between confessions about love and regret, she started teasing new projects, a fresh start, and, of course, plenty more tea. And while Dean stayed mostly quiet, the internet wasn't. Rumors swirled about new relationships, secret arguments, and hidden tension between their families. It seemed like every time things started to calm down, someone said something that brought the drama right back to life. But here's the twist. Despite everything, both of them kept saying the same thing. They'll always be family. Which sounds nice, sure, but the way things have been going, that story might not be finished just yet. And what comes next? That's where the real drama begins. By late 2025, Tori and Dean were finally free, legally at least. But emotionally, that's another story. Because while the court called it uncontested, their lives were anything but calm. Tori was back in the spotlight, reinventing herself through her podcast, new projects, and public appearances, while Dean was quietly rebuilding behind the scenes. But hold up, it gets even more interesting. Despite everything, they didn't completely disappear from each other's lives. Tori still slipped up sometimes, accidentally calling Dean babe during interviews, and fans couldn't stop dissecting it. Was there still love there? Was it just habit? Nobody really knew, but it kept the internet talking nonstop. And you know what that means? The drama wasn't done yet. Tori started opening up more about life after divorce, how she took 2 years off cooking after the split, how she was focusing on her kids, and how it felt to live independently for the first time in nearly 2 decades. But listen to this. She also hinted at wanting peace and privacy, even while spilling just enough tea to keep everyone hooked. Classic Tori. Dean, on the other hand, seemed to be staying low-key, focusing on sobriety, family, and what he called his fresh start. But even then, the public couldn't let go. Every quote, every appearance, every cryptic Instagram post sparked new theories. Some fans even speculated the two might end up back together someday. Unreal, right? And that's what makes this story so fascinating, because even though the papers are signed and the marriage is technically over, Tori and Dean's story still feels unfinished. It's not just a divorce, it's the end of a Hollywood saga that lasted almost 20 years. But here's the thing. Sometimes the biggest drama doesn't happen when love begins or ends. It's what happens after. And for Tori and Dean, the story's far from over. Because if there's one thing Hollywood loves, it's a comeback. And something tells me this one's just getting started. Just when everyone thought Tori Spelling had faded into the background, she did what she's always done best, turned chaos into content. And honestly, the way she's flipping the script now might be her biggest move yet. Instead of running from the drama, Tori leaned into it. Her MisSpelling podcast became a hit, not because of the celebrity gossip, but because she was real. She wasn't playing the Hollywood poor me card. She was spilling the kind of tea only someone who's lived it can pour. Every episode pulled in thousands of listeners, all waiting for the next jaw-dropping story or emotional confession. But here's where it gets wild. Each time she opened up, she gained back a little control of the narrative that once defined her. Meanwhile, Dean's side of the story stayed quieter, but not silent. He started opening up in interviews about regret, sobriety, and what he called the wake-up call of my life. Some fans saw it as redemption. Others called it PR cleanup. Either way, both of them were finally telling their truths, but from very different perspectives. And that's what makes this next phase so fascinating. Because while Tori's rebuilding her career through transparency and relatability, Dean's trying to rebuild his reputation with humility and honesty. It's like watching two parallel comeback stories play out in real time. But listen, every time Tori posts a cryptic quote or Dean makes a heartfelt comment about family, the internet explodes all over again. So yeah, the marriage is over, the papers are signed, but the story? Oh, it's still unfolding. In Hollywood, endings are just setups for sequels. And this one has all the ingredients of a comeback no one saw coming. Because if Tori Spelling has proven anything, it's that she doesn't just survive the drama, she owns it. And something tells me this next chapter might be her most shocking one yet. After nearly 2 decades of love, chaos, kids, and cameras, the Tori Spelling and Dean McDermott saga feels like more than just another celebrity breakup. It's a full-blown Hollywood case study in love, fame, and survival. But here's the thing. What makes their story so addictive isn't just the drama. It's what it says about what happens when the spotlight never turns off. Because think about it. This wasn't some private divorce behind closed doors. Every argument, every rumor, every emotional breakdown was dissected online for years. And yet, through all that noise, both of them somehow managed to stay standing. That's rare in Hollywood, where one scandal can erase a career overnight. But this was something else. It was raw, human, and strangely relatable. Fans saw two people who genuinely loved each other, but got swallowed by the life they built together. The fame, the pressure, the expectations, it all piled up until it broke them apart. But here's the twist. Instead of running from it, Tori turned it into content, into connection, into power. And that might be the most surprising twist of all. Dean's journey, too, feels like redemption waiting to happen. From rock bottom to recovery, he's showing a quieter kind of comeback, the kind built on accountability and peace instead of attention. And whether or not they ever cross paths again romantically, their story will always be linked. So yeah, the divorce is done, the settlement's signed, but this isn't an ending. It's evolution. The Hollywood fairy tale is gone, replaced by something realer, messier, and honestly, way more interesting. Because if there's one thing this story proves, it's that the biggest drama doesn't end with heartbreak. It begins with what you do next. And for Tori and Dean, that next chapter, it's already being written, one headline, one confession, and one comeback at a time.